Parque Zaragoza started in the 1930s as the City of Austin's second recreation center after Rosewood.
This park was designated back in the 30s to be the place where all the Hispanics would come and hang out.
The park itself brought the whole community, the Hispanic community, together. You wanted to do something, you come to the Parque Zaragoza.
Austin's Parque Zaragoza has a rich, rare history. Though it has stood as a symbol of resilience, strength, and celebration for 90 years, its story is rooted in racism. In the late 1920s, city leaders put restrictive housing and utility policies in place that pushed people of color into East Austin.
They weren't allowed to go, beyond that. I think it was beyond Congress or whatever,
These groups were often neglected and underserved. They also wanted more places to gather and celebrate. Local Latino business leaders joined forces and successfully petitioned the city for a new park to serve the city's growing population of Mexican immigrants. Gloria Mata Pennington is a former City Parks program manager who chronicled the history of Parque Zaragoza for its 75th anniversary.
It was a time for real celebration because the community had been instrumental in learning how to push, in learning how to lobby, and in learning how to get things done. They had been victorious. The City of Austin had purchased some land for a Hispanic recreation center.
That land was 9.3 acres along Boggy Creek on Austin's eastern edge, lined with majestic oak trees. The park was named after Mexican General Ignacio Zaragoza. General Zaragoza was born in Goliad when the city was part of the Mexican Republic. A celebrated war hero, General Zaragoza defended the Mexican city of Puebla against French forces on May 5, 1862, which is celebrated annually as Cinco de Mayo. While Parque Zaragoza was set aside for Mexican immigrants living in Austin, it became a Mexican-American cultural center for the entire region.
It was very important for this center and this parque to bring to the forefront the culture, the Mexican culture, the roots of many, many people in this community, and to make sure that those traditions stayed alive.
Throughout its history, Parque Zaragoza has been home to many of the largest Cinco de Mayo celebrations in the city. A tradition of those festivities that continues today is laying a wreath in front of the statue of General Zaragoza. Traditions at Parque Zaragoza often mirrored the Tejano culture. That included barbecue, dancing, and crowning a queen. But the most popular attraction was the Tejano music. Countless bands from Central Texas and beyond performed. They attracted big crowds and helped establish Austin as a live music hub.
It was live music. It was Tejano music. It wasn't just all Mexican music. It was Tejano music that really belonged to us. And it was very important because Austin now prides itself on being the live music capital of the world. But I want people to remember that those seeds that were planted and grew Austin into that, the live music capital of the world, happened right here in this park, Parque Zaragoza.
Music wasn't the only big draw. While today a newly refurbished baseball field occupies the southwest corner of Parque Zaragoza, baseball games date back to the park's early days. Those games were quite popular, often packing the park with fans. Originally, the teams played on a concrete slab attached to the bandstand with bases painted on the concrete. But in the late 1940s, the community began improving the field. eventually building a wooden fence and bleachers.
I used to come out here as a kid. I used to watch the ball players, the people, and I always wanted to play ball, but I never had the time, so I couldn't really participate. But as time went on, I did get involved with the baseball program.
Leon Hernandez served as the Zaragoza Amateur Baseball League commissioner in the 1980s.
We're concentrated on trying to get a baseball program started, and so we got in the newspapers and TV station announcing that we needed players. So we advertised for tryouts, and we had a bunch of players come out. We eventually got about 8 teams.
At the height of the baseball program in the mid-80s, several hundred players ranging in age from 18 to 45 turned up for tryouts. Teams traveled from across Texas to compete, and college baseball scouts often showed up to watch the Parque Zaragoza players.
We had teams come in from Seguin and Lockhart, Taylor, Lampasas, and so we were having a lot of activities. We had this bleacher, we were always full of people. We had a little concession stand, we were doing good.
Sadly, when the local economy took a hit in the late 1980s, so did the Zaragoza baseball program. But Hernandez's contributions went beyond baseball. He was part of the advisory board that initially pushed for the ultimate park improvement.
In 85, 86, I was able to get this advisory board together, and we were able to bring the park up to what it is today. One of the first things that the advisory board did, made up their mind that we wanted to get a big rec center in the park. We had meetings and meetings and meetings, and we came up with the idea that we need to get on the CIP program.
CIP, or Capital Improvement Program, meant a major money commitment from the City of Austin to build a new recreation center. Built by the National Youth Administration in 1941, the modest 2-room historic brick bathhouse at the pool was the park's only indoor facility for 55 years.
Probably the mid-70s is when they opened it up as a recreation center.
David Cappuccino served as program manager at Zaragoza for more than 2 decades, originally running the park out of the unair-conditioned historic bathhouse.
Our advisory board and the community always felt we had to have a new rec center because this wasn't cutting it, The economy went down, so they put it in the back burner, but it was never forgotten. And then when the economy started kicking back up in the early 90s, and then we were able to put it on the bond package. The bond package passed. Then it was a matter of when. So we broke ground in Mayo of 95, and we opened up the building in 96.
The construction of the rec center was a true team effort, with David, the staff, and even neighbors having a voice.
We had a lot of say on how it was going to look, what the color schematics were going to be, what the rooms they wanted, what they wanted, So it felt like it was our house being built, And so you were proud of it, that's the way I felt. I felt real proud.
There were a few surprises during construction. Shortly before the center opened, Cappuccino was told the Mexican consulate was delivering a special gift, a bust of General Zaragoza.
So finally they said, hey, we're going to have a bust of General Zaragoza. Oh, okay, great. So we thought it was just going to be something small, And so we had right there on the counter, okay, we can put it right here at the counter, put a little display and this and that. Well, big old truck drives up with a forklift and lands it right in front of the building, right in the front doors.
While a large statue made a statement, so did the little things like the Walk of Fame. As contractors poured the cement for the sidewalk next to the rec center, community members came out to leave their marks.
They put their babies, their grandmother, everybody. They put footprints there. They wanted to be part of it. It was a lot of fun. And to me, that was ownership. They wanted to say, this is me right here. It's never going to go away.
The community spirit at the new recreation center was reflected in the people who gathered here. It became the safe space for after-school programs and the place for local families to celebrate holidays.
Pumpkin carving. It was a lot of fun.
Cappuccino replicated the Halloween and Thanksgiving programs he started at the old bathhouse and grew them into big events at the new rec center.
Thanksgiving dinners now we're indoors. So we had now 500, 600, 700 people here for our Thanksgiving dinner. Pumpkin carving, you know, we had HEB come in to give us 100 pumpkins, and it was all inside the gym, and you know, it was full, it was packed, you know. We had our fiestas out here, and you know, then they would, you know, kind of filter in over there, you know. Everybody wanted to come to Parque Zaragoza.
Once completed, the recreation center at Parque Zaragoza was praised in architectural journals for its design and cutting-edge concepts. But the most unique parts of the rec center are the murals. The colorful creations chronicle the history of the park and the people who made it possible. Fidencio Duran is the artist.
They wanted the art to be reflective of the history of the recreation center and of the parque, and specifically to reflect the contributions that were made by the three officers of the founding committee of the parque in 1931. And they were Mr. Amador Candelas, who was the president, Mr. Severiano Guerra, who was the vice president, and Mr. Miguel Guerrero, who was the secretary. They were all craftspeople, and they had all immigrated from central Mexico, largely from the central state of Guanajuato.
While Duran painted the local history of the people who made the park possible, he also illustrated important scenes from Mexican history.
The 16 de Septiembre, being the principal holiday of Mexican culture and history, is celebrated behind us. And then in front of me is the Cinco de Mayo panel.
Duran says he not only wanted his murals to educate and inspire, he wanted them to serve as a constant reminder that just a few ordinary people can accomplish something extraordinary.
I want people to realize that it doesn't always take a lot of money, so to speak, but as long as your intentions are well-meaning in regards to the community's best interest, then the community will pitch in and help you do those things that they think will help everybody else and be of service to the entire community in a real visible way, like having a parque or having a center or presenting programming that is relevant to their cultural histories and their aspirations.
While the look of the rec center and park haven't changed much in the past 25 years, the surrounding neighborhood certainly has. Austin is one of the fastest growing cities in the country, resulting in alarming rates of gentrification and displacement. People of color, who have called East Austin home for generations, are being forced out by increased costs of living and rising property taxes. At the same time, younger, more affluent people are moving in, constructing higher-end homes and shifting the character of the neighborhood. Parque Zaragoza has certainly changed over the years as the original families have passed away and moved on.
Hey, we missed some stuff right here. Joe, right here.
But a new advisory group is working hard to breathe new life into the park to make it safer and revitalize the programs and traditions. They call themselves Friends of the Park, Amigos de Parque Zaragoza. Former City Council member Raul Alvarez heads up the Amigos group.
Obviously, we want to help folks who are being displaced from the community, but at the same time, we also want to preserve the history and culture of the neighborhood, because as people move away, then the people who know the history and who kept those cultural traditions alive also are leaving. So I really feel that with this Amigos de Parque Zaragoza group, we have a chance to preserve those traditions and create new ones, and to really build community here at the park.
Keeping traditions alive and creating new ones won't be easy. The hope is that more neighbors will learn and appreciate the park's history and embrace this lush 9 acres of parkland. The city recently partnered with several nonprofit organizations to install a new playground and field improvements. At the same time, Conflicts have arisen from societal issues made worse by the pandemic, such as the increased presence of unhoused people who sometimes seek refuge at the park. More resources and volunteer hours will be needed. But Alvarez and the Amigos de Parque Zaragoza are confident their vision can become a reality, and this lovely open space can continue to be a vibrant place to play, learn, and connect with the community.